Alright, so I just got on at the gym. Figured I'd hop in here for a bit. Be unapologetically you. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So, I mean, to touch on it, I feel like it's a sentiment that's going around, like, a lot of the internet recently, especially with a lot of, like, how can I say it, philosophers, to put it in a word, like Chris Williamson, Alex Ramosi. I think they kind of give great examples of it, just in their stories alone, as well as their come up. But I think it's a great sentiment to carry with you in your day-to-day, especially, you know, with the world kind of evolving / devolving as it is, and in the state that it is, in the United States especially, like versus where I'm at, you know, in Florida. It definitely rewards capitalism as much as possible, like the most lucrative sense, and not to get like political or anything, but that is you know, the way that a lot of people are making it out of you know, so-called matrix, if you want to put it. But yeah, starting your own adventure, doing your own thing, there's a lot of reluctancy behind it because of anxiety or fear about other people's perspectives and like perception of them and how they'll view them if they make the attempt and if they fail. And I think it's becoming much more okay, or like, I mean, it's always been okay, but like much more normalized. It's become much more normalized in this day and age as opposed to like 5-10 years ago, where even using social media as an example, you know, like YouTube, or Instagram, or you know, whatever stream of social media really started to become a prominent, like a viable means of income, and like being able to live off of, essentially. And like 5 to 10 years ago, it was much less common of, like, the idea of it anyway. It was still possible, because it was kind of like coming into fruition, but a lot of people looked down on it in a sense of it wasn't the traditional means. So, you know, starting a venture, whether it be social media, drop shipping, reselling, whatever it is, and at this point, those are kind of like, in a sense, traditional means, like in this day and age, like they're normalized. But just as a general construct of like mental fortitude, I think it's a great idea to just fucking do whatever it is that you want. You know what I mean? Don't let anybody tell you different, because at the end of the day, if you have a vision, if you have a goal, if you have aspirations towards anything, no matter what it is, those were given to you. You know what I mean? And that's a big perspective to kind of look at it from. It's your vision. God gave you that vision. You know what I mean? He didn't give anybody else that vision. So you can't expect people to like understand it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I was saying in a previous podcast that the greatest way to destroy a big idea is to introduce it to a small mind. And that's so true. And it goes with anything that you're trying to, you know, curate or create or whatever it is. You know what I mean? To quote J. Cole, if they don't know your dreams, then they can't shoot them down. And I think, especially starting off in whatever venture it is, if it's your first time attempting anything creatively, or you know, I don't want to say adventure, or like, I can't think of the word, but like entrepreneurial side, like, you know, venturing out and trying to create your own thing, if it's your first attempt at it, the pushback that you get, which is inevitable, no matter what you're trying to start, no matter where you're trying to go, no matter what it is, everyone's going to have a perspective and everyone's going to have a perception of it, which most of the times, unless they have established themselves in that space, they're not going to be as enthused as you are. Maybe they might, say they are until you get the ball rolling. You know what I mean? Because people are supportive. People are always supportive of the underdog. Whenever you say you want to start something and you want to excel in a journey, whatever it is, people always root for the underdog. Whenever you stop becoming the underdog, it kind of flips. You know what I mean? Because then it's, in a sense, a tangible realization for them that they are not amounting to their aspirations. It says nothing about you if there's like negative pushback, negative feedback. Unless it's constructive, then that's different. But if there's negative pushback, negative feedback just for the sake of it being negative, 9 times out of 10, it is an indictment of them and a projection of their insecurity or their lack of drive to get their own aspirations and their own goals and to pursue their own dreams. You know what I mean? So that's where a lot of that comes from, which, like I said, everyone has a perception, everyone has a perspective. You do the same. You know what I mean? If you're looking at somebody and you like, subconsciously or consciously, you know what I mean, you might not try to have a pessimistic or negative lens, but it might be a subconscious thought, and a lot of people don't control that subconscious thought as it pertains to you. And like I'm saying, if it's your first time starting that journey, that pushback is much more impactful. You know what I mean? Which is why I say be unapologetically you. No matter what it is, do not be scared of your aspirations, your goals, your drive, your whatever it is, because it's your shit. You know what I mean? The race is long, and in the end, it's only against yourself. You're the only person living your own life. You know what I mean? Everyone's going to have perspectives, everyone's going to have perception. You're still going to do what you're going to do. You're still going to strive and get what you know you deserve. You know what I mean? The life that you want, the life that you have, the future you have. You know what I mean? Like, to perceive it like that, I think is the best way to do it. Because it's not, in a sense, the law of detachment. You know what I mean? Like, the law of detachment. Whenever you feel like you need something and you long for it, you repel it. You know what I mean? Because without that thing, you are incomplete. So to detach yourself from that sense of necessity, you don't strangle it when it comes by, if that makes sense. And that goes for a lot of different aspects in life, and it coincides with the law of attraction, as opposed to just wanting or dreaming or whatever it is. Do it by a step-by-step basis. You know what I mean? Work towards it, strive towards it, but step by step, so that they're tangible steps towards the goal. The goal. It's not a dream anymore. It's a goal. You know what I mean? It is what you are going to attain. It's future you already has it. How do I get to future me? You just got to figure that out. Put it in steps and work towards it. You know what I mean? So it retracts that law of, or it assumes the law of detachment, because you don't need it anymore. You're getting it, right? Because it's not something you really want. It's something, I'm getting it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a statement, as opposed to, there's no what if, it is. You know what I mean? So it creates that level of solitude within yourself. And in turn, it really it helps. And okay, another thing to consider too is doing it by a step-by-step basis. You're building evidence. Alex Hormozy said, if you lack confidence, build evidence. And that pertains exactly into this. As you go step by step, you are building that evidence, which in turn builds confidence in the realm that it is. And a lot of times it takes, a long time for whatever venture it is to start and to kind of get going. But it compounds. Those effects compound. So whenever you're constantly creating residuals of confidence, evidence, and trial and error, you know what I mean? There's no such thing as a loss or a failure. You either win, meaning you excel in whatever it is you're trying to do, or you learn. So the biggest component is that you're gonna fail. no matter what, you're gonna fail. That's an inevitable fact, but that's okay. It's life, you know what I mean? Life is gonna come at, well, I mean, life is what you make, but you're going to fail in whatever venture it is. There's no way it's going to be completely seamless, and that's okay, because it's part of the journey. To view it from a perspective of, I guess, I mean, you could say like half glass full, like an optimistic perspective. Either you win, meaning you excel from it, like you whatever you try to do, or you do, I guess, you benefit from it, right? So that's a win. Or you learn. So whatever you try, or whatever you do, doesn't work out the way you thought it was. But it's okay, because you got experience from it. And that's the biggest thing. Like I said, it's a compound effect. As long as you're retaining everything from those experiences, from those learning experiences, you're only getting better. You're only getting closer to those aspirations from a goal standpoint. You know what I mean? One step back, two steps forward. As long as you're retaining that information, which go hand in hand with keeping that positive and optimistic outlook. Whenever you view things pessimistically, misery loves company. Negativity loves to feed on negativity. So if you're viewing these losses, which aren't losses, if you're viewing them from a pessimistic standpoint, it's very easy to get roped into a negative spiral, a downward, rabbit hole, which goes very deep. You know what I mean? And it's very easy to get sucked into if you allow yourself to. So to keep your head up, no matter what happens, and to know that you're learning from the experience is the biggest thing, because you will fail over and over and over again. You just gotta keep your head high, because that's the only way you will win. Nobody is going to win with a pessimistic mindset. If you don't believe you are going to win, and I mean like truly believe, if you don't believe that the life that you are working towards, you are going to obtain, you're not going to obtain it. Law of attraction. You know what I mean? If you build yourself up into the person that has it, if you build yourself into the person that possesses whatever attributes or whatever it is, that's it. You build yourself into that person. You are that person that retains all of it. But it's step by step, and it's an optimistic outlook. And all that to be roped into, be authentically you, and don't apologize for being you. If you don't believe in your goals and you don't believe in your aspirations, you can't expect anybody else to. And not that you should. You know what I mean? Your own verdict should be the verdict that you base it on. You shouldn't rely too heavily on anybody else's opinions, because in turn you put the ball in their court on how you live your life. It's kind of the same as, to use like a personal experience. Whenever I first started going to the gym, I used to rely on my friends to go. Every time I would hit them up, and I'd be like, hey, let's go. And they'd be like, yeah, okay. So we would plan to go either after work or after school or whatever it was, and we would plan to go. And every time it would roll around to the end of the day, and they wouldn't be feeling up for it, or they would feel sick or something like that. And internally for me, it built up this dependency on them, intrinsic dependency. I didn't, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like it, but it was. Like in retrospect, if they, as long they're gonna come with me, so I'm gonna go, right? So whenever they bailed out and they didn't want to go last second, I didn't want to go. I didn't, and that happened time and time again. And it was only until the point where I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go. And it was only until that point that I started going. I started going to the gym, and I started I held myself accountable. So that's the biggest thing, is like holding yourself accountable and not expecting anybody else to. You know what I mean? Like nobody else is gonna save you, and nobody else is going to just put you where you want to go as far as your dreams and your aspirations. I don't even like to use the word dreams, because it's like, these are tangible, these are things you're working towards. So nobody else is going to put you where your goals are and where your aspirations are. However, as you build that confidence and you build the proof in the pudding, essentially you carry yourself with a different weight. You carry yourself in a different light. And law of attraction, as you build more evidence and you build closer towards that goal and you align yourself on that path, you attract like-minded people. As you talk, the basis of things that you have to talk about aren't as exclusively recreational. You know what I mean? Like if you are deep in the bag of whatever it is you're trying to pertain to, whatever you're trying to strive for, the points of your conversation, whenever you bring them up, the forefront of your mind is the business or the venture that you're trying to start, whatever it is, because that's what fires you up, and that's what you're passionate about. You build that passion within, what you're working on. That's at the forefront of your mind. So you attract like-minded people who are on that. Whereas initially, or recreational things like, say, movies, what artists are hot right now, what songs or whatever, where you went out or what where you went to drink, whatever it is, right? If you lack that prioritization of purpose, of drive in, a productive venture, whatever it is, that is initially most likely what is going to be on the forefront of your mind, right? Which it attracts that energy. So if you initially kind of open a conversation talking about, like, if somebody asks what you have going on or whatever, right? Oh yeah, well, I'm working on this, I'm working on that, right? And don't be, don't be too forthright, because it kind of comes back to that holding yourself accountable, as well as not placing too much value in anybody else's opinion. You know what I mean? State it as the statement that it is. Don't kind of propose anything. Like if you start working on something, start working on it. And if somebody asks, this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? You're not kind of putting the ball in the court of, like, what do you think of this? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, this is what you're doing. You know what I mean? This is independently what you're doing. Anyway, I'm getting long-winded, but the thing I'm trying to say is that it ropes around to a much more productive conversation. And in turn, if other people that you talk to are on that same basis of pursuing a productive venture or whatever it is, you're much more likely to attract them in that sense. And it kind of builds a strong network. You know what I mean? Even if they are in an adjacent field or something completely different, iron sharpens iron. Whenever you are striving and you're driving to be productive and to create something, you know what I mean, bigger than just consuming, you attract that energy. And once you attract that energy and you kind of banter about that, iron sharpens iron. A players make A players A plus players. So when you curate those conversations and whatnot, you know what I mean, you throw ideas, you innovate, you brainstorm, you know what I mean? Whereas not everybody thinks like that. Like I said, a small mind, if you introduce a big idea to it, it just gets shut down, because that productive viewpoint isn't present or forefront anyway, right? It's kind of a reserved sense, because they're not working on anything. So in turn, they might bat it down, or just kind of give you their perspective on it. And it's difficult whenever it's somebody whose opinion you really value. You know what I mean? If it's somebody that you keep really close, and they either just crap on your idea as a whole, or the way about you're going about it, in the sense of, like, it's not possible because this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, whatever. Where there's a will, there's a way. And if it's something you genuinely want to accomplish, there's nothing that is stopping you. You know what I mean? So, biggest point being, don't apologize for being authentically you. Because being authentically you attracts like-minded people. And don't be scared of who you are. And don't back down of who you are. Who you are is who you are. It's a statement. It's not a question. You know what I mean? And it, like I said, it's a compound effect. As you kind of get further along, you meet more people who are like-minded, who are pursuing something, who you can bat ideas off of, who can innovate, and you excel. You collectively excel, right? It's kind of like building a band of community, in a sense, right? So, you know what I mean? To tie back to that initial point, be authentically you, because whenever you put on a front of something, or someone to relate, or someone who, you know what I mean? Like, don't be scared of being an outlier. If you are, like, I mean, don't put on a front like that's all that's on your mind is just, like, music or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, be authentically you.